This episode is sponsored by Old National Bank. Old National is committed to supporting minority-owned small businesses by helping to expand their access to capital through their Empowerment Small Business Loan Program.
Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode, we will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equity, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders. Black Business Matters podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer marketing and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. I'm Larvetta Lofton, your host and founder of the L3 Agency. Well, welcome to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. Guys, you all know that, well, maybe you don't know, but you all know that I run a communications firm in Chicago. And so our next guest is a first. You know how we have some of our firsts, meaning that this is the first in this particular industry to be on this podcast. And so we definitely want to sound the alarm for our next guest because she is the first broadcast journalist here with us. And did I want to tell you all, and she's here in Chicago. And so you all see her on television on Good Day Chicago, Fox 32. She is an Emmy Award-winning journalist who just recently joined WFLD TV. For those of you all in Chicago, after 9 years as an evening anchor in Virginia. So she's been in other networks outside, but she came to Chicago, y'all. So we are super excited and we just want to welcome her. But she began her career as a reporter in Abilene, Texas, before heading to Central Texas to work in Waco, in Richmond, and in Oklahoma City. And that is where she served as a morning anchor for 4 years. I'm super excited because, guys, she's my sorority sister. So we were just chopping it up and talking about that because we were finding out that we are going to be in the same chapter. So, guys, I'm excited because this is a journalist who is sharing stories in Chicago and ensuring that stories are told within as a Black woman, as a woman of color, and she's here in Chicago in a major city. So, guys, let's clap your hands, stomp your feet for Miss Anita Blanton. Welcome to the show.
Hey. When you said ring the alarm, I'm like, do I get the Beyonce ring the alarm?
So I really wish I could play that. I really did, because I was like, she's coming in July, Anita. So we need to warm it up, right?
Cured, I will be there.
So we will all be in the building with with the beloved Beyonce, baby. Let me just tell you, that is for sure. But I just want to say, we got a Beyonce on Fox right now, and it goes by Anita Hayes, because we definitely have to highlight that, Anita. I'm sure you've worked in other markets, but this is a major market. Chicago is a major market. So I love to just, before we dive into where you are today, I want to learn about Anita as a little girl. What were you like as a little girl?
Oh, pigtails and all. Okay. So my family was in the military. My father was in the military. And so we traveled all over the place. I always tell kids whenever I go to schools, I went to 9 schools in my 12 years before high school graduation. We lived in California, Japan, Texas twice, which is our home state. We lived in Alabama, Georgia, Colorado. We were all over the place. That was all just before I graduated from high school. So we moved a lot. I always say I think it forced me to make new friends a lot. And you really resent that when you're a kid. But now as an adult, I look back on that full experience and I'm just grateful for it because it's helped me tremendously in my profession. It's helped me tremendously just in life in general. I had to learn new cultures constantly and really just to I feel like you either close yourself in because you're just so angry with the situation of moving so much or you become an extrovert. And so for me, I feel like I'm kind of an introverted extrovert, which means that I love being at home. Definitely love being at home, but I absolutely thrive being out as well. So I do a lot. I do the most on a regular basis. I like to be out, especially in this new city. I'm always exploring it, always finding new places to go, new places to eat, which means I have to stay in the gym. But it's been a great time, a great ride. And definitely my upbringing has helped me tremendously throughout all of it.
That's awesome. Do you have siblings?
I have one brother. Yeah.
Younger
And
brother, older?
older brother. Yeah. Yeah. My parents on April 4th celebrate 50 years of marriage. They have two kids in our
Yes.
40s. Yeah.
Nice. Yes. Yes. And I want to say this. Any kids, Anita?
No
Any kids for
kids.
you? No
No
kids. Okay.
kids. Yeah.
No kids. Okay. And your brother?
I have one nephew, the Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. He graduates from University of Texas in May.
Oh, so wait a minute. Wait. So so I thought you were gonna say he was a baby. He is a full
Well, he's
grown.
my baby. He is
He's
my
your
baby.
baby.
He
Baby,
is my baby.
girl, teeth, baby.
Yeah.
Teeth are the best. They
So we're
are the
super
best.
excited about it. And it's definitely been a journey. I tell people, I don't know that I've prayed for anybody harder in my life than my nephew, a Black boy growing up in the inner city. And he's almost to that degree. So we are super excited for him.
Yeah, well, we are super excited for him too, because we know the struggles, right? We know them as a young Black boy in inner city and having to cope with everything and being guilty without even being part of it, right? So totally get that. So Anita, just based on that, what was your favorite subject? Now you were traveling a
Favorite
lot, so what was
subject?
your favorite subject?
So I would say two things because it kind of goes into how I ended up with my degree is in broadcast journalism and political science. My two favorite subjects growing up were always English. My favorite teachers were always my English teachers, but then also history. So that again, you look back over your life and it's not hard to wonder how you ended up where you are.
That's why I asked that question, because we don't realize that those formative years and those subjects really do matter and get you to this place. So I totally agree. I love it. I mean, I was an English and science major, so I think that's
Okay.
hilarious.
That's an interesting combination.
I know, right? I wanted to bring stuff to life, but I wanted to always know, which I think is the part where, I thought I would be an attorney because I love to just the research part of it, right? It's
Yeah.
the research part of, now, why does this happen? Now, what made this happen?
Yes.
I just want to ask all these questions and learn more. So I love that kind of like this idea of like history and English, because I do think that it's important. So are you still that person that loves history today?
I'm so glad you asked that question because as you're speaking, I'm thinking, oh, we are kindred spirits because I actually sent off to all the colleges I was interested in the psychology department because I wanted to know the whys behind everything, just like what you said. I wanted the whys. So it really took experience in terms of hands-on experience for me to kind of hone what I wanted to do into journalism. But I'm still very much so interested in history. Let me tell you, I can remember just a few years ago being in the Black History Museum, African American History Museum in Detroit. with my cousin. She left me in there because I was taking too long. I mean, I'm going to read everything. If I'm going in the museum, I'm staying there all day. Same thing for DuSable when I got here. I mean, I was in DuSable all day. I wanted to know about everything that was in there. And if they change the exhibit, I will be back in DuSable again. I really enjoy just learning about the past because I think it keeps you informed for where we're going in the future.
I think so too. I definitely think that, obviously you've traveled a lot, which I think is really cool because you get to see so many different cultures. And to your point, it forces you to have to meet new people. So I think that's an excellent skill to learn at a young age because I believe in that. I mean, when you said extrovert, introvert, I was like, yeah, I love to be, I'm social, but I love to be at home. So I just laughed. I was like, mhm, yeah, I love to chill out and enjoy my glass of wine and just sit there. So I totally hear you with that. Anita, I want to talk to you about the news, right? This
Sure.
is on Good Day. You are now on Good Day Chicago. I want to talk to you today. Like what we look at all of the ways that we all get news. Right? We get it on our social media. We get it so many different ways today. And I'd like to get your insight on that, especially for us to be a marketing communications firm and, we're doing content development. But I want to get your perspective on how do you see news today? Like, how do you see it and how are you as a journalist impacting these new trends?
So I think it's challenging. It's nuanced. When you say media, people always have to keep in mind media is very expansive. That means radio, television. It means what you're seeing on your phone. It means so many different things now, especially. Typically, you'll have a 3-screen approach to delivering news. That's the computer screen that's right in front of me right now, the phone that's in my hand. I have 2 sitting right here. And then also your TV screens. And so with people able to constantly access news in so many different ways, if you have maybe a news app on your phone that's sending you alerts throughout the day, it becomes that much more incumbent upon news organizations to really find the things that what's going to get people actually to the TV. For those of us who are in broadcast journalism and TV journalism, what's going to get people to the TV? Because if I've seen half of everything on my phone all day, what's different when I turn on the TV? What's going to make me turn on the TV? So you kind of constantly have to be mindful of that. It's one of the reasons why I truly love morning TV. Now, I don't love the alarm. Let's be real. I do not love
I'm so
the
glad
alarm.
you said that. I love that because I'm like, do they love getting up this
I
early?
keep 100 at all times. That alarm is a chore every day. However, I do really love morning news from the sense at this point in my career, I've kind of done it all in terms of different shifts. I've worked on the weekends before, in the mornings, in the evenings. I've worked mornings during the week. I've worked evenings during the week. I've been a reporter. I've been an anchor, all of those things. So you have more perspective. And for me, I love that in the mornings, we wake up with everybody else, right? So it really becomes important, much more important than in the evenings. In the evenings, you give people straight news. Because I just came home from work. Again, I have looked at my phone all day. I've been getting alerts. I know half of everything. Just give me the news so I can have my dinner and go to the gym and go to bed. But in the mornings, when everyone is waking up and you're just getting your day started, you want to find out what's going on in the world. What was happened while you were asleep overnight? What can I expect in the day ahead? People want more than just news, but we have the opportunity to bring in more community into it as well. We get to just talk more than just delivering the news. We get the opportunity to kind of, I like to say, like left brain, right brain things. And that's challenging for some folks, especially when you're coming from, like, I just did 9 years in evening news. When you're going back to morning news, it's a shift. Like, oh yeah, there's this part of me that I really didn't get to develop and really showcase as much when you're doing evening news and you're just delivering the news. In the mornings, you get to talk. You get to talk about pop culture. Those aren't things that really fit into an evening newscast. You get to talk about, today we had the actress Lois Lane, who plays Lois Lane on the show, and she's going to be in C2E2 this weekend. For those who just love comics, those aren't things that fit into an evening newscast. When we get to have entertainment segments and all different types of things, you can fit into a morning show because it's 3 hours. So you just think about the fact that in the evenings, your time is limited and you're just trying to get people that news. Your time on the air is limited. People's attention span is limited because they've been going all day. In the mornings, everybody's just kind of getting going. And so you have a lot more opportunity to do a lot of different types of things. News is changing in so many different ways. When I came into the industry, the things that we were doing then are, in some part, there are certain things that will always be there, but so much has changed over time as well. So we've even had, just a few weeks ago, we had a reporter with Fox Weather who came on and he did his whole live shot with his cell phone. I'm like, whoa, man, we've come a long way. We've come a long way. There's just so many different things that you can do in order to be in a lot of different places. We take a part of that in terms of what you see even in pop culture, which is the emergence of all of these different social media sites where people are able to access each other very quickly and put out information quickly. I won't call all of it news necessarily, because just from a journalistic standpoint, there are certain things when you go through the schooling of it, I'm very particular about the ethics of things, about the heart of things, about the why behind things. And so it matters to me that you get the story right. It matters to me that you have a heart for the people involved. I think it's changed a lot. It's still evolving. It's one of those, just like everything else, that's the one constant in life is change. But I'm enjoying it. And I especially enjoy being able to do mornings right now.
So let me say this. I think for you giving us perspective, it's so crazy because when you gave that perspective, like morning versus evenings, I didn't see it like that. And I'm like, wow, that's so true. Like I'm easing into the day, give me like, okay. And then by the evenings, I'm done. Like, okay, it's a wrap to your point. So I definitely didn't see that. And I was a CNN buff for so many years and watching it all day, right? I just wanted to watch news all day. That was my thing. And so, and then morning TV to get your day started, to understand that process. And you're so right. It does. And I do think that, and I think you said, I think it helps to your day because in the days where I used to travel to work, nobody travels. We all are working for some of us, we're all working from home. And so we're not getting it anymore. But to your point, because I'm holding it in my hand and you said it, versus before I had to walk to the living room or to the bedroom. You can just pull it up on your phone and get it, quickly. So I definitely think that's the obvious difference around that piece. And so I do want, you have had the opportunities to cover so many amazing stories. And so while we know, before we talk about these tragic mass shootings, before we go to this, I just want to take a pause because you covered President George W. Bush. And what was that like? I mean, just to know that, and just full disclosure, everybody on here, okay? This is my podcast, so we can talk about stuff. We don't have to be censored, but I'd love to hear, what was that like?
Yeah, so very interesting. Whenever you're covering world leaders, there's so much that goes into the day, first and foremost. You have to be there like hours and hours before they arrive. Let's just start there because you have to have security clearance, security sweeps. So they might not be coming in until 1:00. You're probably there at 6 or 7 in the morning and you're just holding. You're just in a holding pattern. So for security reasons, it becomes a very, very long day. But I'll tell you, when you have those, especially as a young journalist, those are some of your most empowering days as well, because you may have grown up watching CNN, but now you're in the middle of it. Like you literally are in the middle of what you used to watch. That is a full circle moment. And that's an amazing, beautiful moment in your life. And so there are moments where you're, sitting there and, Air Force One, and you're like, this is really me. Like it's me now. That's an amazing thing. But then you got to snap too. And you're like, okay, have your questions together. You're not going to have a lot of time. Whenever you are interviewing world leaders, you may have seconds maybe to put out a few questions because there's so many people involved. And to be young and doing it, you definitely aren't going to have much time because the CNNs are there. So you're definitely not getting much time. So you want to be prepared. I always say like to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. You want to come prepared and really ready for whatever. Those are incredible days, but they are long days as well. And they're days that you look back on and you're like, man, I was really able to do that. And so whenever somebody says the whole George Bush part, I'm like, well, that's telling of my age. That's telling of my age. So I've been through a few presidents. I've been able to cover several presidents, and each one, honestly, each one has had amazing stories connected to their administrations. They're all very, very different stories. Very different stories. But at the same time, you're literally covering history. Anytime we got to see like, okay, you're going to be covering Condoleezza Rice today. Like, that's history. When you're going to cover, I remember sitting in the newsroom and I'll tell you, I was the night that President Obama was elected. I had just started at a television station. And it wasn't one of those moments where they were like, everybody out the door. It was like, I had just started. So I didn't get to be a part of like the big story of the day. Listen, I am the type of person that wants to be a part of the big story. So I'm like sitting in the newsroom like, oh man, what can I do? How can I be a part of this? What more can I do? It's difficult. But at the same time, everything has a time, a place, and a reason. Yeah, you look back on every single administration, you're covering history. I was on the desk reporting on COVID the day that the insurrection took place, and I will never forget that for the rest of my life. My assistant news director running into the studio and saying, they're storming the Capitol, go to the network. Those are all moments when my nephew gives me grand nieces and nephews that one day, I'll be able to like sit and talk to them about like your grand aunt was there for this or was able to be a part of this, or these are my stories that I remember from this particular president or that particular president. And they're just really special.
I think what you've done just listening to you is that sometimes we talk about this just as a team, that we look at history and sometimes Black history is sad. What you've definitely just shown us is that historical moments that you've experienced are inspiring. We get to see that. And I think so oftentimes when we hear history, we hear sometimes, or we focus, let me say this, we focus on some of those struggling times and downtrodden. But just sitting here listening to you, I'm like, she's given us history and history in the eyes of just Anita, you're serving as the journalist or reporter and telling that story. And so we don't necessarily see that you too are helping us understand history through it all, which is why you had history as your favorite subject. So it definitely makes, it makes a ball of sense. So I totally get that. And so we've spoke about these moments where you've had an opportunity to cover world leaders and be in the room. I do want to let's talk about that room, right? How many of them look like you?
Right. Yeah. You talk about having a seat at the table or getting into the room. You're not going to see many of us. And I think that's why it's so important for those of us who do get into the room, who make it into the room, that you leave the door open behind you, that you're not getting into the room and closing the door like it's only me.
Yes.
I take mentorship so so seriously. Obviously, I'm not able to do as much for each one of my mentees as the next one. Some I'm more hands-on with and some I'm not, but they know that I'm always here for them. So I just think it's so important that we lift as we climb and that we're able to really help people not just see what they're walking into, because everybody's journey is going to be different. But one, yes, to offer our perspective on what we've been through. When you and I were speaking offline, it's just, tests become a part of your testimony. Like, that's important. I say this so wholeheartedly that it's the good days and the bad days that have allowed you to arrive to where you are. So the good experiences that I've had and the bad experiences that I've had landed me in market 3. The good days in my life and the bad days in my life led to this moment in my life, which is a cherished moment. So I think that going into the room, it's not going to be many people who look like you, but your job then is to create opportunities for people who look like you. And I take that very, very seriously.
I'm so glad that we get to humanize you, because while you're standing delivering news to us as it's happening, and culture news and things that are happening in the world in the mornings, we also have to understand that you're human too. So
Absolutely.
I think that's the other part that we don't always have an opportunity to see, because we see journalists as, oh, they're just telling news. But I love that you gave the day. Let me tell you, we get there early. It's not just like show up at 2, because I think understanding that piece helps us to understand why your job is essential, because we need to be able to hear from the journalist and get that journalistic approach behind it. I do want to ask you, we say this within my friends, like we have friends that just feel like they got to break the news, like they got to break the news. Like they got to be the first one to say, yep, I heard the story first. So I say all the time, is that still a thing? Even in news, like we got to break the news, like we got to break it. Is that still a thing? Because I feel like people feel like they could do the same thing.
I think breaking news is always going to be important. And I think that it's great if you can be first, but it's most important to be right.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Anita. Because I think the first gives, I'm the first, but is it right? Right?
Right.
You the
Right.
first, but do you have all the facts together? Which,
Yeah.
Again, do you have all the details together around that? So I certainly want to say this, but I do want to ask you this question before we move on, because I know, just the recent events in Nashville, and I know you've covered these mass shootings across the country, and we know that there's so many. Right now, I feel like it's so many. I even had to say, now, what was the last one again? Like
Yeah.
the fact that
Absolutely.
I even had
It's
to
a
do
sad
that.
reality.
Yeah, it's just so how do you, like, we're sitting here watching the news. My mom and I were watching it when it was breaking news. We turned on TV and it was there. It took a moment for us all to, figure out who's in Nashville. Let's check on, like, it was just that kind of feeling. So how do you practice self-care in those moments when you're
Oh, very good
delivering?
question. A very good question, because I think that that's one of the things that evolves with time as well, that journalists years ago, your mental capacity to handle the situations that you are covering really was not considered years ago as much as it is now. And it's going to be an ever evolving thing. But you do have to think, and that's why I talked about like keeping in mind the actual people that you're covering. And I appreciate you saying humanizing the journalist as well, because we're all just people. Whether I'm coming to you for the happiest day of your life or the worst day of your life, I'm a person, you're a person, and we're all just trying to make it through this thing. So when you are covering heavy, heavy stories, that's not just I go and I speak about it and go home and it's nothing. Even Highland Park here, being on the desk for hours, my intent that day, I literally had my hand on the door, was leaving early, about to enjoy my 4th of July. My 4th of July plans were shattered. Not shattered to the extent of the people who were sitting there at that parade where gunfire erupted, whose lives will never be the same. So I don't want to compare it to that extent, but shattered from the standpoint of I can't just talk about that for hours and then go out and celebrate because, again, I just talked about human beings whose lives were taken, destroyed, or altered. So when I leave here, I'm doing the best I can to get ready for the next day because the story doesn't end the next day either. That day, you're still going to be talking about it the next day and very likely for quite some time. It's heavy. What I will tell you is that one station that I worked at, I truly appreciated the fact that after a mass shooting in that particular city, there was a mass shooting in Virginia Beach that took place in 2019. I'll never forget it because I had just watched my nephew walk across the stage of his high school graduation. And I got a phone call about what was taking place in Virginia Beach. I was in Texas for his graduation. And I got a phone call. I hopped on a plane and left my bags at my desk and went on the air, literally with luggage at my desk in the newsroom. And you're on air, you're doing live coverage. And again, you know that for days you're going to be covering that. One of the things that that particular station did is they started using therapy dogs to come in, and they were watching this program that had therapy dogs go out to the site of that mass shooting, tremendously helped the people who were out there at the memorials day after day. And the HR director, I give her so much credit for the fact that she watched that and she said, hey, I got people who are dealing with some heavy things here as well. I'm going to use a program like that for them. And so she started bringing in therapy dogs. And I'm telling you, it sounds simple and it meant so much. It meant so much. There are a few of us who, unless you have allergies to animals, when animals are so innocent. And so when they bring in these therapy dogs, it just lightens your mood. It just has an immediate impact to lighten the mood. And that little moment of levity goes a long way when you are dealing with heavy days. And I want to make sure to mention that these are the mass shootings that are covered nationally. It's still heavy when you're a mass shooting. The FBI's definition of a mass shooting is when there are 4 or more people. Okay, so 4 or more victims. So you think about that. There are mass shootings on a regular basis. Now, not all of them are national news, but there are mass shootings on a regular basis. And I can tell you, as someone who's worked as like a nightside reporter, when you're having to go out to shooting after shooting, night after night. I can remember at one point covering a story about a young man who had lost his life, and literally I went to the wrong memorial because they were that close to each other.
Wow.
That kind of stuff just rocks your spirit. It rocks your spirit. So you have to be very cautious of how that seeps into your soul and to not become numb to it. And to remember, again, that the people are still human and to remember that you're still human. So you have to care for the story and you have to care for yourself.
I like that you said care for the story and care for you. I definitely think that's beautifully said in that capacity because I don't think that we see the journalists who go out there and have to witness and see the family struggling and seeing just in that moment just what's happening. So
it takes a lot out of you.
I'm sure it does. And you become an essential worker, right? But we did not do, and I say this, essential worker, and I've learned this, honestly, Anita, that I've learned that no longer do we have to say or. Why can't we just say and, right? So the nurses and the doctors and the journalists, right? and. Like, we can't keep saying or. They all need to be wrapped and comforted too. And we don't understand it. I feel like this world is this whole tug of war of or. It's like one goes before the other. No, it's and, right? And it's that space of equity that we've been talking about just on this show. And so I want to take this opportunity right now. We asked two questions, Anita, and I just want to tell our guests again, Anita is fresh. Like, she is just a year into Chicago. And she's my sorority sister. And so just to have her on the show when we're just a little over a year just speaks volume for us, because it's these moments that we have where the work that we do and lines up to the guests that we do that are telling stories. So I'm certainly going to tell all of you all to listen to Good Day on Fox TV. I am going to push that. So when you listen to this podcast, I want you to download that app and listen to her, because she says she can help you get started that day. And so I do want to remind people, when
We
you
help
got that.
each other.
Yeah. And that moment when you wake up and you like, oh, it's that alarm clock. And she's like, yeah, I got one 2 or 3 hours before you've gotten up. So give her some grace over there. So, when you like, oh, it's 6:45 and Anita's like, I'm at the studio ready to report. So we all can think about you in that capacity. But I do want to ask you this question. We do ask this question. Why do Black businesses matter?
Well, I think from a cultural perspective, you can look at it from the aspect of just Black excellence and the struggle that we have had as a people to acquire the things that we have in this world. So there's the aspect of it that's the climb to where people are. And so I'm very, very big on supporting Black businesses, whether that's, your restaurants, but also you want to support the clothing lines and you want to support the plays that come out. And there are so many different types of ways for us as a people to support our own. I think that's truly important. But then also from the aspect of telling our own stories in a multitude of ways. We're all kind of artists in our own way. And so for the artist who creates a podcast like you, or for the artist who is creating like a storefront for people to buy different types of things in their storefront, I want to support their art. I want to support your art. I think that it's important that you see people who look like you supporting you, and to say congratulations on the struggle to have the success that you do. I think that we as a people don't start off with the capital in many times that other folks do. So that rise can be very difficult when you don't start off with the access or even the education necessarily on like banking or having the connections that maybe some others do. That climb to have your own business, that should be celebrated. So it's so important to me to not only seek out Black businesses to support, but to make sure that I'm regularly, not just a Black History Month thing, not just a Black Restaurant Week, but to regularly seek out ways to support Black businesses and just support Black people in general.
I absolutely love you, Anita, because people know I say this every time we do this. Like every time I ask that question, I get chills, because when people respond to that and they give their response, it's always something that says, wow, I never looked at it like this, right? So when people listen, like there's an art behind everything we do. Like we're all artists. Like I love that. And so understanding that piece and understanding why we need to support it, from the storefronts to going to the plays. Like I'm so, like that just that's it. Because I think we don't see it from its entirety, like the whole lineage. Right. We only see it from just that storefront products, et cetera, but designing that storefront. Yes. And so from that, I love the range of diversity that you showcase in why Black businesses matter. And so as we close, Anita, and I can't believe it's already time for closing. It goes so fast that I say to myself, it's like having a conversation. You're just like, oh my gosh. But I just want to say this because You don't know that you bring joy. And I shared, just so that you all know, before we hopped on, I told her just recently how my mom and my aunt were just overjoyed. It's like, oh, we love her. Like, I'm so glad Fox got her. And they were raving about her. And I hadn't looked at my notes to see that she was going to be on the podcast. And so you don't know who's cheering for you. You don't know who's advocating for you behind the doors, right? And so I shared that with you so that you knew that there were cheerleaders that were cheering for you.
And I so appreciate
that want to see you win, and ensure, because you are human, that you're sharing that. But you have some fans out there who certainly were excited to see you. And I'm certainly excited to see you. So you are bringing joy for us. So I'm asking you this question: what brings you joy?
Ooh, my family brings me great joy. Anyone who's around me knows I light up to talk about my family. I was just with my parents this past weekend. They're celebrating 50 years of marriage, and I'm so ecstatic to be able to even say that you just don't hear about just a 50, 60, 70 years that much anymore. And so I'm tremendously proud of their union, and I'm grateful to God to be a product of their union. My nephew, who's getting ready to graduate from college, I am tremendously ecstatic to see this moment in his life. And I just think about the journey that he's been on to get to this point. It makes me emotional, but I'm so incredibly proud of the young man that he has become and all of the things that he dodged to get to where he is. And I pray that he continues to succeed in his life. My brother, who is doing wonderful things on his own as well. And I always tell him that I believe that his proudest accomplishment is raising my nephew. Wow. And I think most parents would feel that way, that your proudest accomplishment is seeing that your children are successful. And so to see what my brother went through in order to raise this young man as a single father, I am tremendously proud of him. So when I look at those are just my immediate relatives. But when I look at just my family in general, I'm just so proud of them. I'm proud of the people I came from. You mentioned the fact that we are sorority sisters of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. But I look back on the fact that my aunt is also a Delta who came over in the 80s. And I look at my cousins who came over in the 80s and the 70s, and my grandmother who pledged in 1947. So if you think about that, the pride that comes with just that statement, this is an educated Black woman, a college educated Black woman who becomes a member of Delta Sigma Theta in 1947. And my grandfather, who was an Omega, both of my grandfathers, I'm so proud of those things. I'm a third generation HBCU graduate. They gave me that lineage. So I'm tremendously proud of my family. A lot of things can come and go, but I'm proud of a lot of different things in my life, but none make me as proud of just the people who I get to call my family.
That is absolutely beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful that we get to, when we decided to ask that question, because we have found that Black joy wasn't celebrated enough. There is a tremendous amount of Black joy. Yes, we've got our achievements. Yes, we've been able to do, but the joy that we have within family, within culture, within success, within legacy, we weren't celebrated in that capacity. And so I think it is such a beautiful thing to hear and be celebrated. And guys, y'all know she's an HBCU alum. I'm an HBCU. The HBCUs just rock. So, whenever
Shout out to the HBCUs.
Whenever we get a chance to rock it, we gonna always throw out that.
Always.
I'm just gonna say, I'm sorry for those who went to PWIs. I'm really sorry, but I'm not, right? Because that culture is outstanding. And I love that we get to shine upon that and be great and excellent in the work that we do coming from HBCU. So I think that's powerful. So as we close, people want to know how to find you. And y'all, she on TikTok. So I want you to share with everybody.
I'm everywhere.
So make sure and tell everybody.
I am everywhere. So you can find me on Instagram, Anita Blanton Live. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Like she said, I'm on TikTok, Anita Blanton TV on TikTok and Twitter. So yeah, I'm out there. I'm not hard to find at all. And of course, I'm on Fox 32 every morning from 7 to 10 a.m.
Yes. So, guys, I mean, this has been such an incredible interview. I'm excited that I got to sit down with my sorority sister and just
Ditto.
talk about the stuff that she's doing and her accolades and how she supports Black businesses. And I think that's why she's here. And so as we wrap up, she did give us 3 things. And I just want her to give us 3 things that small business owners should be something that's important. So I just want you to just share that real quick, because I think it was excellent in what you shared with us. So if you can give us those 3 tips as we close.
3 tips for Black businesses. Was that your question? 3 tips for Black businesses?
Yes.
So I would say staying authentic to you. There is only one you in the world. And so the reason why you are where you are is because of what you offer the world. So don't switch it up for anybody else. There are ways, obviously, that you can enhance your business, but don't change who you are and what you are offering to the world, because there's a market for it. I would say making sure you are supporting others as well. That's a biggie. I think that, and we mentioned this, making sure you keep that door open behind you is really important. So if you made it through, obviously I'm a journalist, but if you made it through and you have a nail art line, making sure that somebody else can do the same thing coming up behind you, that, yeah, it's great to have your corner of the market. Like, okay, this is what I do. But somebody else needs that instruction. Somebody else needs that helping hand as well. We all needed a hand in getting to where we are. Shout out to the mentors who helped me to get to where I am. I am somebody's mentee. I am somebody's mentor. And I think we all kind of have to have that lift as we climb mentality in life as well. So definitely making sure you stay true to who you are, making sure you're always willing to help others. And I think too, it's really important for Black businesses in particular to seek out ways that you can shine. I think that social media is great, but make sure you are connecting with the right people so that you can get your brand out there. When we're on the air each day, I get great joy. We're talking about things that give you joy. I get great joy when we're able to highlight Black businesses in the area, just new things, different things. So make sure you reach out. Let me know what's going on, what you have going on, and how we might be able to help you shine. Don't be afraid to ask others to help you shine. Again, that's another thing that we've all needed as well.
Oh my gosh. I absolutely love you, Anita. This was outstanding. I'm so glad that you said yes to us. So, listeners, I just want to say this. Tune in. More of Black Businesses Matter. But you know what? Check out Anita on Fox Good Day Chicago. Check her out, I think, and check her out on some of her social media handles. I just want to say she's on Fox 32, Good Day Chicago, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And she's on all of the platforms at Anita Blanton TV and Anita Blanton Live. So check her out. Thank you so much for being an outstanding guest on Black Businesses Matter. We look forward to, we're going to have to bring you back. We're going to have to bring you back.
Sure thing. Thank you for having me.
This was amazing. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.
This episode is sponsored by Old National Bank. Old National is committed to supporting minority-owned small businesses by helping to expand their access to capital through their Empowerment Small Business Loan Program.
Thank you for joining us this week on Black Businesses Matter podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen so you will never miss a show. You can also follow us on social media at the L3 Agency and at Larvetta Speaks. If you love the show, leave a rating so that we can continue to bring you impactful episodes. You can also take the pledge and order our merch at our website at thell3agency.com. THEL3agency.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.